concern. And I must admit, I look forward to hearing all of the various speakers' views and the discussions that take place in our roundtable discussion as we go forward. That's very much the welcome outset. My next element is just to explain very briefly what Pakistan-Britain Business is all about. The Business Council is all about. Our job is to promote bilateral trade between Britain and Pakistan and to generate business and investment between the two countries. We also have an additional role where we are mandated to try to place Pakistan in a light which displays Pakistan as a potentially a good location to do business, and hopefully that will come out very clearly in our discussions as we go forward. We also work very closely with a series of stakeholders, including Pakistan government, its organs, including TDAP, the KPK Board of Investment, and Punjab Board of Investment. We work closely with DIT and the British High Commission, and of course we have other stakeholders we work with, including British expertise and many chambers of commerce to assist in delivering our mandate. So that's what we do and who we are. Now, just very quickly in relation to Pakistan, it is wonderful to see that the economy in Pakistan is looking very positive in outlook for the economy. It is good to see that despite expectations and the problems with the pandemic, Pakistan's economy is looking encouraging, and there's an expectation of very good growth amounting to approximately 4% over the next months and 12 months. It is also good to see that Pakistan are now engaging with the IMF in trying to resolve structural problems and developing appropriate taxation links and the ability to deal with that. We've also seen the great success of the Roshan digital account, which has generated and bringing in substantial amounts of foreign currency into Pakistan. And that in turn has had an impact upon the rupee-dollar exchange rates, and there's been a stabilization of the exchange rates.
And until he comes back on by the wonders of the internet, I'd like to ask our first speaker, and that's His Excellency Moazzam Ahmed Khan, the Pakistan High Commissioner to the UK. If you could unmute, please.
Yeah, thank you, Nigel. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, good morning, and I think good afternoon in Pakistan. Honorable Baroness Nosheena Mobarik, Mr. Mike Nithavrianakis, I hope I pronounced it rightly, Deputy High Commissioner and Trade Director of the UK in Pakistan, Mr. Campbell Keir, Senior Infrastructure Advisor, British Expertise International, Susana, Córdoba, Head of International Trade, Greater Manchester Chambers of Commerce, Mr. Hassan Daud Butt, Mr. Julian, and ladies and gentlemen. Let me, at the outset, congratulate the Pakistan British Business Council, the British Expertise International, and the UK High Commission in Pakistan for teaming up with the High Commission in organizing this important webinar. In the face of the pandemic, at a time when physical meetups pose a continuing challenge, it is important that conversation on trade and economy continue among all stakeholders, that we continue to raise awareness among our business community on the opportunities available and continue to afford them every comfort. Early this month, Forbes put out an assessment of Pakistan's economy in the COVID era. It bears repetition that at a time when major world economies contracted in the face of the worst economic downturn after the Great Depression, Pakistan's economy performed remarkably well. Beating all forecasts and estimates, the GDP expanded by 4%. Large-scale manufacturing alone is clocking in at over 9%. This, of course, mirrored the management of the pandemic, though through a series of institutional arrangements, timely intervention, and real-time data-driven decisions, Pakistan was able to save both lives and livelihoods. On both fronts, the economic and the public health front, Pakistan is performing better than most. Following a difficult period of stabilization, the country is now transitioning towards sustainable growth. Current account deficit has been converted into surplus, and foreign exchange reserves have more than doubled, recording their fastest growth in the past 5 years. Remittances, exports, and portfolio investments have all surged. Pakistan Stock Exchange has been termed as the highest growing market in the South Asia and among the best performers in the world, outperforming the likes of Germany, Sweden, Russia, and Ireland. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you some salient features of our investment landscape. Our Board of Investment has been reformed to offer one window facility for investors, a pro-business investment policy with liberal fiscal and monetary incentive is now being implemented. Priority sectors have been identified with special incentive packages for prospective investors. Comprehensive ease of doing reforms have been undertaken to address various challenges faced by the investors. The reform measures have resulted in upgrading Pakistan's position by 28 places in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report for 2020. To promote industrialization in the country and augment exports of Pakistan, expansionary monetary policy, prudent expenditure policy, and liberal trade regime with low tariffs on imports have been introduced. To secure better market access for Pakistani manufactured products, comprehensive trade agreements with China, Malaysia, and Indonesia have been negotiated. Under these arrangements, more than 90% of Pakistan export goods are subject to I think somebody needs to mute their speakers. Thank you. Pakistan is a beneficiary of the EU and the UK GSP schemes, wherein more than 90% of Pakistan's exports are subject to zero duty. More and more focus is being placed on green investment that are environmentally friendly and carbon neutral. Recently, the Water and Power Development Authority, WAPDA, has launched its first green Eurobond called Indus Bond for 10 years to raise 500 million at about 7.5% interest rate. Under CPAC, 9 special economic zones are being established in different provinces of Pakistan. In these SEZs, the government has announced special incentive packages, including tax holidays, an exemption of custom duty on import of capital goods. The SEZ can be developed by public sector, private sector, and also public-private partnerships.
It is, but it's really not clear. The letter, the words of the letter are clear, but not everything else. And do you want me to put your new address there?
Besides Chinese investment, some of the key countries, including Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Malaysia, Turkey, and some EU members have evinced interest in the SEZs. The UK, which remains one of the largest and most technologically advanced economies and a leader in the service sector, especially in fintech, has a long-standing history of successful investment in Pakistan. More than 100 British firms are well entrenched in Pakistan. I wish to emphasize here the opportunities available in 3 important sectors for British investors, namely IT, engineering, and energy. Firstly, Pakistan's IT sector has a promising future, brimming with talent and with potential to become the largest export industry of the country, from $3.5 billion currently to potentially $20 billion. Our IT human resource comprises 400,000 professionals with an annual addition of 25,000. For IT and IT-enabled services companies, we have introduced special incentives, that is tax holiday on VC fund until 2024, tax exemption on IT exports till 2025, 100% equity ownership, and 100% repatriation of capital and dividend. Bentley, Ciclum, IBM, Mentor Graphics, S&P Global, Symantec, Teradata, and VMware are among the few international brands that have established consulting centers, research and development facilities, and PBO support services center in Pakistan. Secondly, UK has an edge in light as well as heavy engineering and auto sector. The SEs being set up offer lucrative incentive in this regard. Finally, in the energy sector, both oil and gas exploration and renewable, Pakistan is offering a market whose potential is yet to be fully exploited. Ladies and gentlemen, the future beckons with promising possibilities. And now is the time to do business in Pakistan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, High Commissioner. That was a fascinating talk. And I think all of us that know Pakistan realise that we all have a job to do to get the good news out about Pakistan around the UK. So thank you for that. You mentioned IT, engineering, energy as key sectors. And I know from other speakers, we're going to hear about a wide range of opportunities. So as PBBC High Commissioner, we do value the close links with your High Commission, and I know we will hear from your Trade Secretary later, but thank you very much for opening the conference. And I believe our Chairman, Julian Hamilton Barns, is back with us now, so I'm going to hand over to you, Julian.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm dreadfully sorry. I don't know what happened there, but my internet went down, and I'm now back on. Thankfully, I do apologise for the inconvenience, and hopefully we can move on very quickly. Just very quickly before moving on, our next speaker is Campbell Keir, and he is the senior infrastructure advisor for British Expertise International, and he has significant experience in the energy and infrastructure sectors, and he's worked with the DIT and various other bodies, and he's worked all the way around the world, working for large companies and also for stakeholders. So if I could ask Campbell Keir to take up the banner and to take us forward, I would be most grateful. And thank you very much. And yet again, I apologize for my absence. Thank you, Keir.
Thanks, Julian. Thanks, Julian. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, of course.
Good. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Julian. And yeah, one of the challenges of internet is it is not always as reliable as it could be. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today and say a few words about doing business in Pakistan. First of all, as a senior infrastructure advisor at British Expertise International, I'd like to just give you a very brief introduction to that organization in case you don't know it. British Expertise is a membership organization with representatives from education, infrastructure, and the international development sectors. The purpose of British Expertise is to maximize the impact of the UK in the high growth and emerging economies, benefiting citizens and economies alike. BEI is based in London and connects UK companies with international markets where their expertise and innovation are valued, and helps them to understand how to do business in these markets. BEI focuses on high growth markets such as Pakistan, so this is a very relevant event. And it was very interesting to hear about His Excellency, the High Commissioner's views, which maybe we'll talk a bit more about later. So to the topic at hand, we live in a global world, as sadly the COVID pandemic has proven. From my position in British Expertise and as the president of the Energy Industry Council, I'm lucky to get an insight into the opportunities and challenges. And I'd like to highlight these as I think they're relevant to Pakistan. COVID has been a tragedy across the world, and I hope that we'll be moving out of the pandemic soon and into a situation where we learn to live with the virus, but it has taught us some valuable lessons. Across the world, COVID has exposed a number of issues, both in the developed and emerging economies. There are too many to mention here, but the ones I think relevant today are, first of all, supply chains. The exposure of countries to global supply chains has been revealed. For example, the UK was heavily dependent on one or two countries for its PPE, so that when COVID hit, we were struggling for equipment. I see around the world governments looking at their supply chains for essential commodities such as PPE, food, fuel, and so on. And I think this creates opportunities for investment and local growth where investors can take advantages of the wish to diversify and local supply chains. And I think the investment framework that His Excellency, the Pakistan High Commissioner to the UK mentioned earlier is very relevant in that context. Second is healthcare. Systems have been put under strain like never before, so many countries are looking at increased investment in healthcare, not just to big hospitals, but small local clinics that can address the local needs in villages and small towns. The UK has a lot to offer in developing new healthcare systems. For example, the application of telemedicine to bring experts to the door of patients in remote areas. Third and finally, education. Across the world, COVID has fractured education and learning systems, which will need to be rebuilt. Fortunately, the internet has proven that we can learn, more learning can be done online and doesn't have to be face-to-face. Again, there are a lot of examples where UK companies can help with the application of technology to education. Learning may never be the same again after COVID. But let's move on from COVID. Across the globe, and including Pakistan, there was a huge surge in demand for infrastructure. Emerging and developing economies are looking to build new infrastructure and upgrade legacy assets to meet the demands of their growing, wealthier, and more mobile populations. In every country, I hear the same about urban infrastructure projects, rail, metros, roads, etc., airport expansions, new port facilities, and, importantly, a strong trend towards green infrastructure, but more on that later. The key question is, how are these projects going to be financed? A study by Deloitte showed that only 16% of cities around the world could self-finance their infrastructure projects that were required by their communities. Post-COVID, government budgets are tight, so international private sector funding will be required, but the scale is vast. It is estimated that $2.7 trillion per annum is being spent on infrastructure, but the requirement is $3.7 trillion. That's a shortfall of $1 trillion per annum. But the money is there. The world is liquid and interest rates are low. There is a lot of private capital that is looking for good, bankable projects, and I have to stress bankable projects, through vehicles like public-private partnerships or direct investment. But these days, the funding comes with conditions. Projects must meet the global sustainable development goals and be consistent with the challenges of climate change, e.g., for example, which discourages investment in fossil fuels in favor of renewable and green projects. Also, so often I hear the same from investors. Projects are interesting, but not bankable because they've not been properly framed or scoped and are so not commercial. But there's a lot of help available, like the 5-case model developed in the UK and now available internationally to help improve the scoping and so the bankability of projects. Finally, the biggest challenge of all is climate change. Currently, we are not on track for 1.5 degree rise in temperature by 2100. It's more like 3 or 4 degrees, which will have a major impact around the world, especially in emerging economies and to the most vulnerable in society. We must ensure that projects and investments into resilient infrastructure are prioritized. E.g., water management will become a priority as weather patterns change and drought and heat waves increase. And storm intensity rises, creating flood risks and coastal erosion. More and more governments and investors are looking to ensure their projects are consistent with the climate change ambitions, and hopefully will be agreed at COP26 in Glasgow. Investors are already looking to see their projects are aligned to these goals because their shareholders, investors, and their staff expect it. So in conclusion, doing projects in Pakistan are full of opportunities, as I think have been highlighted already, and more people better placed than me will highlight later. But there are many existing challenges, but there's also some new ones, like how we recover in a post-COVID era and the global challenge facing us with climate change. But help is available, and I believe that UK companies have a lot to offer through organisations like British Expertise and the Pakistan British Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time, and Julian, I'll hand back to you. Thank you.
Campbell, thank you very much. Very, very interesting comments and hugely relevant in today's circumstances. Yes, there are very substantial opportunities in Pakistan. However, there is the need, as Campbell says, to make sure that the projects are feasible and that the appropriate due diligence is carried out in preparing to commence work. And I must stress that doing the due diligence and understanding the circumstances is critically important. Thank you, Campbell. That was very, very interesting. I'm now going to pass the banner to Baroness Nosheena Mobarik, who is a former chairman of Pakistan-Britain Business Council. Nosheena is a very busy lady. She has responsibilities in the House of Lords. She's been heavily involved in discussions in Europe, and she was formerly a vice chairman of the CBI in Scotland, and she has very, very significant connections within particularly the Scottish business community, and I'm delighted to introduce her here as a supporter of Pakistan-Britain Business Council, bringing her vast knowledge and connection within the Pakistan community. So, Nosheena, I hand over to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julian, for those kind words of introduction. And thank you to yourself and Rashid Iqbal for arranging this discussion. I'd like to first of all say how pleased I am to be joining you all on the same platform as Excellency Moazzam Ahmed Khan and our own British Deputy High Commissioner, Mike, who I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his second name till I've worked on it a little bit. Now, I think this discussion is a timely one in that we're sort of at a cusp, post-COVID, post-Brexit, and it's appropriate to have discussions in where we can think about how to do things differently. I'd like to make a few general remarks about trade between the UK and Pakistan, and just about how laws and processes must change to take up the opportunities and increase growth. So I'll come to that later. But, and you'll forgive me, you'll all be aware of the figures, but just, it's always worth kind of just mentioning again, population of 220 million, over 65% would be classed as youth, which translates to a lot of energy and a lot of drive, a growing middle class, an abundance of natural resources. So all of the ingredients for what would potentially be, what could potentially be a very, very successful economy. I'm going to, I mean, noting that the traditional industry sectors like textiles, that's always been a strong sector, but other areas like sports equipment and apparel, leather goods, surgical instruments, and Sialkot City, as you know, is a center for all of these. And I have a particular connection to Sialkot in that my father-in-law was probably one of the pioneers of that city and set up one of the first sports companies, Classico Sports. And you know, as you know, that has become a real center for sports equipment. And particularly really entrepreneurial people, I would say, from that part of the world. They built the first dry port themselves as a business community. And now they've actually got together and raised funds and have built an airport, you know, so privately built by the business community. Nothing stops them, they keep going. Other areas of huge potential and growth, of course, I think, and an area that I don't think has had enough attention and we should all be aware of is the food processing industry. There's massive potential there. So if anyone's, you know, got any expertise in that sector, they should be looking at Pakistan very, very closely. Of course, IT and software services, that area is served by a growing and talented pool of young professionals. And additionally, I think worth mentioning, ease of doing business has improved with very specific interventions. It means that Pakistan has actually gone up in the rankings quite significantly. Energy was a real issue in past decades, but Pakistan is now in excess of energy, which completely changes the dynamics. And it's notable that the focus within the country is on clean energy. So a move away from fossil fuels and you know, keeping in mind that there are considerable coal reserves, but the focus is most definitely on renewable energy, solar, wind, particularly hydel. It really fits in with the green, global green agenda. And the government is taking steps to promote the green economy and giving incentives to industry to promote that green economy. And I think something that, you know, we have to bear in mind is Pakistan is one of the least polluting countries in terms of the garment industry, which is a big industry in Pakistan. And yet it's up there in the top 6 as the most vulnerable in terms of climate change. And when I served at the European Parliament in Brussels as chair of the South Asia delegation, we had a very interesting conference on climate change and how the South Asian nations are all affected in very different ways by climate change. So, you know, another area, but probably for another day, a discussion at greater length. Pakistan received GSP Plus in the latest review, and the textile industry in particular benefits from that. But we, as the UK, are no longer bound by EU regulations. So there is the potential for a new relationship. And GSP Plus may not be the best solution. The current arrangement was negotiated with the EU and is still very restricted. So we have the opportunity now for a bilateral arrangement, which can be a much more open one. And this is really the time for the UK to undertake a scoping study in terms of free trade arrangements with Commonwealth countries. And COVID has changed the outlook. Exports have performed well during this period in Pakistan, which is an indicator of the difficulties faced by European manufacturers due to lockdowns. But it's also an indicator of market resilience within Pakistan. And I think COVID has also concentrated minds and accelerated processes that were already underway, namely digitalization. Let's say COVID-19 has provided a new impetus to remove unnecessary paperwork and accelerate digitalization of trade, an area where the UK and Pakistan are fully aligned. Currently, we operate on laws that date back to the 1800s. They're simply not in tune with the needs of the 21st century. If we cut trade costs, we allow more SMEs to be able to participate in global trade. This in turn creates jobs, lifts people out of poverty and drives economic growth and makes for more inclusive societies. Pakistan actually co-chaired the Friends for E-Commerce and Development in the lead up to MC11 in 2018, which played a crucial role in securing WTO commitments to launch e-commerce negotiations. Pakistan are big supporters of e-commerce, and let's not forget that Pakistan is a large middle income economy, so not to be ignored. We can build on this common ground of e-commerce to create a truly modern trade corridor. Digitalization can slash transaction times from weeks and months to hours and days and take away the key pain points for SMEs and cut costs of transactions by up to 50%. Now, here in the UK, the International Chambers of Commerce, ICC, have launched a call to action to all governments to reform laws and align legal frameworks and provide this global framework for, a model law on electronic transferable records. And working closely with ICC through the APPG trade, of which I'm one of the officers, I know that they have done a fantastic job in putting this on the agenda for G7 currently underway. So think about it. English law, English as a common language for business and English law as a basis for international contract law means that Pakistan and indeed all of the Commonwealth countries are well placed to benefit. So for Pakistan, digital trade will bring more women into the economy. That's already proving to be the case. But if we can get the legal structures right, and it doesn't require massive investment, we can have a very high return on that relatively small investment. I would say there are exciting opportunities ahead, and what I believe will be a transformative time for international trade generally and for trade between the UK and Pakistan. And very briefly, I just want to end on saying that perceptions of Pakistan are still very much an issue. But as an example, I took a trade delegation just a delegation from the European Parliament way back in 2018. And trust me, in a few days, they had a completely different opinion of Pakistan from the one that they set out with. First of all, just seeing those large factories, how they operate, the degree of professionalism that's there, looking at the Safe Cities project in Lahore. I mean, the level of technology was something that they hadn't quite imagined Pakistan would ever have. And the hospitality are such a welcoming place. And, you know, perceptions are still an issue, but once people get out there, they are just won over. A great place to visit and a great place to do business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nosheena. Your comments are absolutely on target. I agree absolutely with your comments about perception. I've been to Pakistan on numerous occasions. I've always been absolutely welcomed, and I have never, ever felt unsafe or in a difficult environment. I've always, I praise Pakistan and their people for the way in which they welcome people from other jurisdictions. And this perception issue is one of the key issues that we have to address. I would also just very quickly comment that business is across the whole spectrum. It is not just for the big boys. Pakistan and all of the British people, we have many, many, many SMEs that are the backbone of our respective economies. The opportunities for SMEs also abound, and work needs to be done, and opportunities need to be provided to these individuals, the small companies. And it's not just the British Airways or the Virgins or other major groups who have recently been moving back into Pakistan and building this connectivity. The opportunities are there and abound enormously. But thank you, Nosheena, very relevant comments, and thank you. I'm now going to pass the banner over to Hassan Daud Butt. He's the Chief Executive of the KPK Board of Investment and Trade. He was also heavily involved, or has been heavily involved, in the rollout of CPEC, and he is a wise man locally to have a chat with and to build and develop relationships with Pakistan, particularly if you're looking to develop relationships in KPK, where I know there are huge opportunities. So if I may, I'll pass the banner to Hassan, and I look forward to your comments, Hassan.
Thank you, Julian. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on wherever you are. I would agree to most of what you've said, but I'm not too sure about the wise part and also about the heavy involvement part. So those two are debatable, but the rest, whatever you've said thus far, I totally endorse and agree. Ladies and gentlemen, before I start speaking about Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and how we are, looking at it as a stepping stone to the Central Asian Republic and Afghanistan, and speaking about the province at large. But I would, since Julian has mentioned about CPEC, so I have made a short presentation, which I would, with the permission of Mr. Julian, like to flash, and also like to also highlight few things that remain in our discussion, because I'm also the focal person for KP as far as the new SME policy is concerned. I am also the focal person when we were working on during the COVID for preparing SOPs for the industries to remain functional, and how trade activities could continue from our border posts, and what sort of SOPs are required there. So I agree. I also totally agree to the important fact that our population is growing. We are over 220 million, and each year a sizable number of interns enter the job market. So that is higher on the agenda of not just the federal government, but also on part of the provincial government at Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because we have had a decade where security was an issue, and as we speak, things have improved significantly, and we are quite hopeful. Lastly, before I move forward on my presentation, I would also like to state that for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment, and likewise for the Federal Board of Investment, and I can speak on their behalf also, it is this investment is not a transaction. It is a transaction. It is building relationship for us. So what we say, what we promise in the new scheme of things, we would like to deliver and meet your expectations on that. So with this said, could you enable me to share my screen so that I can share that presentation? It's a short one, trust me, Julian, so don't worry.
Yes, okay. Rashid, can I pass over to you to facilitate that request? Is that possible?
Yes.
At your end? What?
No, mine, not yours, mine.
Sorry. Just wait for a second, please. I think you should be able to share the screen.
Not yet. So till the time that this facility is enabled to us, we
Right,
okay,
you share the
brilliant.
screen.
Now, yeah, I have. So, ladies and gentlemen, while we speak on the doing business aspect, and the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment is also the focal point for ease of doing business initiative. I would also briefly touch upon that a little later, but I would just like to, for those of you who do not know, I represent a province which is a marriage between hospitality and history. So I assure each one of you investors, friends, colleagues, living far and abroad, when you come here, you would not just the Buddha Trail, but also enjoy cuisine which you would never have tested before. I promise you that. So and you know, we are a large size province, a western province bordering Afghanistan, and we have 35 districts in 7 divisions, and we are also the gateway for Central Asian Republic. The reason that I'm flashing this is to fetch your attention towards Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and attract most investment from this webinar as a result of this webinar. Our population size is over 35 million and growing, and this is a good consumer market for anyone who's looking for investment in that area. We have a large endowment as far as oil and gas, natural resources, agriculture sector. We are growing. Hydropower, our northern area is blessed with a lot of resources as far as small, micro, mini, and large size hydel projects. We are for those who are interested in gemstones, we are their heaven. We have a huge stock for horticulture, dairy, livestock, tourism, is hospitality, which, by the way, is priority number 1 of the federal government, and also priority number 1 of the provincial government, and we are improving leaps and bounds as we speak. IT sector, you cannot live without it, and I'll speak about this. And last but not the least, as part of the initiators for the billion tree tsunami, forestry remains one of our. But before I speak about Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and also I would like to, since Julian has mentioned, I was lucky to be part of CPEC since 2013 till 2019 before I joined Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as their in charge of their investment attraction agency. So closely attached to that from all the 3 governments, and also when the current government assumed office, Prime Minister Imran Khan gave us clear directions as far as CPEC was concerned to increase its scope from not just Gawadar and infrastructure and energy to trade and market access, industrial development and global value chains, socio-economic development, agriculture, Gawadar, not just the Gawadar port, but as part of the larger blue economy, and last but not the least, where Ministry of Foreign Affairs is attached, the third party participation. And I am happy to report that when I speak of Rashakai, I would request each one of you to look at it as a good investment place. Ladies and gentlemen, our pillar industries from petrochemical, automobile, and iron and steel, tourism, hydel, infrastructure, electronics. And in this, when we look at investment, we are looking at an industry which largely is export oriented. It works on import substitution. We want new technology to come here, and also value chain progress, especially in case of mines and minerals, and also in case of gemstones and some other areas which I'll highlight later. But also, likewise, we would like to have a labor-intensive industry which can actually employ our youngsters who are graduating and coming out into the job market, and also as a result have FDI, CAD. We could generate revenue and create job, as I said earlier. In terms of CPEC, ladies and gentlemen, prior to 2018, it was mostly on G2G, but now as we are entering its phase 2, it's about business to business. And as while sitting in chair at the Board of Investment for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, I find this time extremely interesting, and we're trying to tailor our policies accordingly. We are looking at each step and each gateway to monitor this process, because now when business to business interact, understanding culture, understanding each other's ways of doing business and things would be interesting. So we are cognizant of this, and we are actually approaching businesses from both sides, setting up business councils. We have a CPEC business council, we have a China-Pakistan business council, and we are approaching our partners in UK, DAI, elsewhere, to actually set up similar mechanisms, so that, you know, when business attract business, it's always a challenge when government steps into it. So we are moving towards a time where interesting time where from each sector that I'd highlighted earlier, the businesses could come and take over. As I said, we are in our SCCs, not just in CPEC, but elsewise as government policies. We are crafting incentives, and I'll speak about them. I think His Excellency, the High Commissioner, spoke about them briefly, but I would just like to highlight the complete process, because I was actively involved both in Islamabad and here. We are crafting incentives which are efficient so that we achieve our objectives. They are performance-based, and there would be an evaluation mechanism placed both within the SCC Act that we have. We also now have Special Technology Zone Act and other ways of monitoring this, harmonized with national incentive investment policies, non-discriminatory, backloaded, because we understand that the cost of land sometimes is higher, and last but not the least, they are regionally competitive. We have done our analysis while crafting this for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. When I was working on the industrial policy, we had a great study on Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Bangladesh, in terms of having a policy which can help. So on one side, we have human resource development, streamlining our processes, and looking at our locational disadvantage as far as Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and converting it into an advantage through these performance-based incentives and fiscal incentives. So in the same process, ladies and gentlemen, after I assumed office, we were able to get our industrial policy approved by the cabinet. We have set a commerce and trade strategy by my office, again approved by the cabinet, and this looks for new markets and using e-commerce as a stimulus. And then, of course, we have set our investment strategy, and all these documents are available on our website for anyone to browse through it and perhaps look at it as a possibility for investment. Considering our pillars, we had in last 1.5, and I'm very happy to report that my finance minister and also my chief minister approved my recommendations, and we are working on, again, few recommendations to support investment and trading in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We were able to craft, so we've set a business portal, which is sort of a stepping stone towards the ease of doing business that we have total as of ease of doing business, the land registration, building plan approval, all available on even just last week, I have put the list of approved and unapproved housing schemes for any investor who want to invest in housing sector in my website and of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, so that we do the hand holding that is expected from us. And we have set up our ease of doing business cell here. It is not as big as perhaps I would like, but it's in the right direction. Similarly, we have exempted a lot of traders, tourism being our main area where we want to attract investment. We have exempted a lot of taxes there, and also made it compatible in terms of building capacity of. So now coming over to the economic zone, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rashakai. This is the only special economic zone which is the first one in the CPEC, and also in terms of its novelty, the first one being done in public-private partnership with Chinese CRBC. And all of you, I'm sure, know what China Roads and Bridges is a huge state-owned enterprise, and we are happy to have them here. And likewise, we under our Public-Private Partnership Act, if any other enterprise wants to set up an SEZ here, we would be very forthcoming in that. And on the left, you could see the incentives that are being offered, and also if the investment size is large, we can have negotiation and discussions on this. I would just briefly touch upon Rashakai, Julian, if time permitting. It's a special purpose vehicle has been set up. The area is around 1,000 acres, but we will move incrementally as perhaps den shopping would states, crossing the river by touching each pebble. And we're doing it in 3 phases. First phase, 247 acre, and similarly growing beyond. And there's a growing demand for investment here. A lot of local and foreign investors are looking at Rashakai, and it's been set up under an SPV which was established. And I would, from one window to solid waste management to all in terms of vocational training, it has all the facilities. I'll skip the financial part of it, and anyone who would like to come. This is the recent visit of Chinese ambassador before the groundbreaking was done by His Excellency the Prime Minister. So we're looking at various industries, and they're just few, but based on the. So I would also just like to highlight the areas where we would like to fetch investment. We are very keen to have investment in food processing and related sectors, especially large-scale dairy farm and milk processing. And if in any one of you is interested in any particular area, just send me an email, and I would send you initial document and pre-feasibilities wherever. And I totally endorse, and I've been highlighting this fact, we need to have good feasibility, bankable feasibility, which could support investment attraction and creating that enabling environment. Similarly, tourism, don't blame me later if you miss this boat. Trust me. We are now really working on our tourism sector. We are setting up integrated tourism zone, new novel idea. We are setting up new places, and any one of you who've not seen our northern area, especially of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, I think is missing a big part of their life. Similarly, IT, we want investment to come in IT park. Our new IT minister had a meeting yesterday with me, and we're meeting ZTE, Huawei next week. Similarly, anyone who would like to work in vocational training, capacity building, setting up IT parks, setting up AI parks, or requisite training, we are there for you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, coming over to mines and minerals, we are heaven as far as mines and minerals. We have deposits of marbles, the best one in the world. We have emerald, we have placer gold, we have all sort of metallic, non-metallic mines and minerals. And if you're interested, again, I would say we would be very happy to give you that information on. So this is just a brief about the marble sector. This is, here we need value addition. Here we need you to come and support us, do investment, make money also, but build our capacity also and add value to our industry. So we've done a lot of studies as part of our economic outreach. We've done from tobacco to gemstone to medical tourism. We've done all our studies, and perhaps now with our industrial policy, with our investment strategy and our pitch book ready, we are ready to go to the next level. Again, this is the marble area. Again, for light engineering, electronics, ladies and gentlemen, we would be happy. You can come and invest in Rashakai, set up a good high-end facility here, because the consumer market for this is there. Everyone, each one, not just here, but also in newly merged district has a mobile cellular phone available. Again, for iron and steel, this is growing. The first investment that has come in Rashakai is in the iron, in the steel sector. Century Steel has started developing. They required 40 acres of land, and we are very happy with how things are working. But again, as a member of the Nia Pakistan Housing Scheme representing KP on the private sector side, I think Nia Pakistan Housing has actually been a great source of creating the kind of interest, excitement within this sector, huge growth. And again, if you could come, we would do our hand holding. I see my colleague Shafiq here amongst the speakers, and you know, he could refer you to us, and not just for KP, and I'm there for you as part of the board of investment entire process, so we'll help you. But don't miss this boat as far as investment in the real estate, in housing sector is there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would end on a note to say that please come and invest in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We are not just land of opportunities. We are surely a land of growing opportunities. So Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Board of Investment, the government of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa awaits you to come. We are there and we will not let you down. Thank you so much.
Hassan, thank you very much for that very interesting presentation. It certainly does display the vast opportunities that are available in KPK. And in relation to the tourism aspects, you can rest assured that one of my lifetime obligations is to visit the northern areas and to be involved in having a look around and enjoying the benefits of that sort of visit. In relation to the wider business opportunities, yes, there are huge opportunities, and I admire and I praise you for your work with the Rakashai Special Economic Zone, and I wish you all success, but there will be undoubtedly many people that will be knocking on your door at some stage to secure your support and assistance. And I thank you for your presentation, which has been enormously helpful. Thank you very much. I now move to pass the banner to Mike Nithavrianakis. He is the Deputy High Commissioner in Karachi, and he's the Trade Director for Pakistan. So he's in charge of the whole shebang and the delivery of the British business community, and this is a wonderful opportunity for Mike to be able to give us a bit of an idea as to how the British High Commission can support those activities, and so that British businesses can participate and enjoy participation in working in these wonderful opportunities that exist. Mike, I'll pass over to you, and I look forward to hearing your comments with interest.
Julian, thank you very much indeed. High Commissioner, Your Excellency, Baroness Mobarik, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really pleased to be at this PBBC British Expertise International event. I think it's the best webinar that PBBC has done. So well done to you, Julian, Rashid, Nigel, the rest of the team. breadth of expertise and speakers representing the UK and Pakistan. And I don't really want to repeat some of the messages about the perception issues for Pakistan or the scale of the opportunity. I would just make a few quick observations. One is that if you're a British company that is already exporting to India or Indonesia or the Gulf or Turkey, and Pakistan is not on your radar, it absolutely ought to be, because if you are able to export to challenging markets outside of the OECD countries, I don't think in penetrating the Pakistan market. And some of the great advantages, the historical connection, the people-to-people links, the soft power that exists in both countries, the large UK diaspora of 1.6, 1.7 million British people of Pakistani origin, the knowledge that we have for each other's countries, the language commonalities, the legal system, these make the opportunities to do quick and successful business that much easier. And the problem I think we have is that once British companies arrive in Pakistan, they see not only how hospitable the country is, but how connected it is. There is no shortage of routes to market, whether that is bidding for a public sector tender, exporting your goods or services and looking for a distributor in Pakistan, looking to invest in KP or Punjab or another part of the market, or perhaps developing a joint venture relationship with a local company that can help advance your business. There are different routes to market, and they all exist, and they have all been done in different guises over the years. The problem we have is there are not enough British companies coming in the first place. And that might be for a variety of reasons, but one I would argue is because of the outdated perception of the country. We all know the trials and tribulations that Pakistan has had from a security perspective, but I don't think there are many countries in the world that have managed to reduce the terrorist atrocities and the deaths that have been caused by terrorism as Pakistan has had. And Karachi is a very good case in point, where this used to be one of the most dangerous cities on earth several years ago and is now rapidly moving up the scale of safer places. That's not to say that people are complacent, nor should one be about their security, but there is nothing to stop somebody coming to explore opportunities in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, other parts of Punjab like Faisalabad, Sialkot, Multan, where the business community is waiting with open arms to receive British companies. And if I tell you there are 180 British companies in Pakistan, but 5,000 in Dubai, you can automatically see the disconnect that exists there. Now, there might be a lot of reasons why individual British companies or one man or one woman consultants are living in Dubai and not living in Pakistan. But I would argue that not only is there an opportunity for UK firms to look at the opportunities in Pakistan, but from those firms in the Gulf as well. I think that the connectivity point is really important. I mean, it's really encouraging to see, I mean, maybe I've done too many of these webinars now, but I'm seeing lots of really familiar names online, which is terrific. I can see British companies like HR Wallingford, Mace Group, Woodley, BioReg, Tony and Guy. You know, there are people representing particular regions of the UK. So Baroness Mobarik there with a lovely Scottish accent. I can see Amjad Pervez from Bradford, Greater Manchester region is there. You know, the pockets, I don't know about the Midlands or Birmingham, whether they're represented, but, you know, those are the areas where I think we can be quite sort of directive in encouraging companies, not just because we want to tap into the diaspora, but that's an open door that we should be stepping into. And of course, because of the current COVID challenges, border issues, and I recognise that the red listing of Pakistan by the UK is a big challenge, we've got to make the most sometimes of the virtual opportunities for connectivity. But frankly, we've managed to do that in quite a productive way. And if we have to continue doing that for a bit longer while the vaccination rollout speeds up, then let's do it. For us in the UK, we have a small Department for International Trade team represented in Islamabad, Lahore and Karachi. We don't unfortunately have the bandwidth to be proactive in every single sector, although many have been mentioned by previous speakers. But let me just touch on a few. I would say healthcare and education are absolutely top of our list of priorities from an export point of view. So I would focus largely on the private sector because there is a greater level of resource there that can afford to pay for UK expertise and equipment. And that could be in education, it could be schools, vocational training, higher education institutions. We did an extremely successful visit by the Chartered Institutes, a virtual visit, which has produced a lot of good business outcomes where progressive Pakistani private school and university networks are keen to offer more online and digital services, and there are some brilliant British companies that can provide that. Likewise, in the healthcare space, the hospital infrastructure, but also the medical education and training opportunities in digital health and in other spaces around that, I think is enormous. You know, for National Health Service trusts to perhaps come out and do clinical services agreements for digital health companies to offer their services. You know, COVID, I think, has taught us that the digitization, the e-commerce, the financial technology opportunities definitely exist. And I think people might be quite surprised at how big a leap Pakistan is taking because of the young demographics and because of the smartphone owning community here, where they are wanting to have many, many more services at the touch of a button. And I think the UK is well placed to support some of that. You know, we would be very interested to support individual companies, but we will be running, I think, virtual missions, either sector specific or geographic specific. So please do get onto the UK and Pakistan social media channels, and we would be delighted to support you. We look at, if one looks at some of the other sources of support, it's shocking to my mind that UK Export Finance, the UK's export credit agency, has £1.5 billion, you know, that's 330 billion Pakistani rupees, and is barely used. And so it's incumbent, I think, on all of us to say, you know, no project in Pakistan should fail because of the lack of funding, and UKEF can be one of the solutions around that. Despite the changes that have happened to the UK's aid budget globally, Pakistan is still a very, very important development partner for the UK, and I would say that some of the economic growth and private sector support programs that we have, some of them are much longer term, but on things like job creation, supporting Pakistan's exports beyond textiles and a few other core items is an important issue for us. Helping Pakistan improve the business environment and promote macroeconomic stability is very important, and it's encouraging to see just how much of I would say, a V-shaped recovery some of the big industrial groups in Pakistan are seeing in textiles, cement, automotive, construction. Some of those sectors we will see getting further support, I think, in the budget that will be presented in the National Assembly this Friday, the 11th of June. And I would say that if one looks at some of the existing big British companies that are here, don't just assume that, you know, because you're not a Unilever or a GSK or a British Airways that you can't come. The supply chain opportunities down the channel are very significant indeed. We are really pleased that Virgin Atlantic are now flying to Pakistan. Obviously, their schedules are much reduced because of the COVID challenges, but we hope that once those are lifted, that not only will BA and Virgin be looking at Lahore and Islamabad, they'll also be considering Karachi, and we hope that there will be other ways of promoting the opportunities here in Pakistan. It's interesting that the High Commissioner mentioned the ease of doing business. Obviously, Pakistan had a big leap forward last year, although frankly, it's only replacing a bit of lost ground from previous years. But in fact, the next ease of doing business report is due out very soon. And we are, fingers crossed, you know, inshallah, waiting hopefully to hear whether Pakistan might have made it into the top 100, which we think will be a positive issue. I can't finish without just sort of commenting on one or two of the challenges. This is obviously not a straightforward market. It needs a bit of risk appetite. It needs a long-term approach. You don't just come here and make a quick buck and head off into the sunset. The High Commissioner and I were talking yesterday, and I was mentioning to him that it was the United Kingdom that introduced bureaucracy to the world, so you can blame us for the problem. But there are some countries that have taken bureaucracy to another level, and sometimes it's quite difficult to understand the system. So it's up to organisations like boards of investment and British High Commissions and Deputy High Commissions to support organisations through that. I am really excited about the prospects for growing the bilateral trade and investment relationship. The High Commissioner and I and others have a few ideas about the structure we can put in place to support that. But really what it needs is not the boring officials to support this. It needs the actual companies. They are the ones who will produce the prosperity that our two countries are looking to share in. Finally, I should say, have a look out for activities later in the year. The England cricket team will be coming to Pakistan for the first time in 16 years. That is a very, very big event, both the men's team and the women's team in October of this year. Really excited about that, and there may be other events around that we can hopefully promote and celebrate. I think I will close there, but look forward to hearing from people offline. I know that Rashid and Julian will share my contact details with anybody who wishes to receive them, and I hope you will not be shy in approaching the Department for International Trade in the Pakistan network for assistance. Thank you.
Mike, as always, very interesting comments about business in Pakistan. Your comments about connectivity, I agree with absolutely. It's connectivity not only in the most basic ability to get to Pakistan and do business, but the development of our digital systems that are assisting in working and putting all this together. And I've got my fingers crossed for the Pakistan ease of doing business number to be below the 100 figure. I know there's a huge will, and the real issue, as Mike focused on, is we need to drive the businessman to communicate and do the work. We, the stakeholders, yes, we're very keen to assist and support and provide advice, but the reality is we still have to deliver businessmen who actually do deals, and we need to look at the increased revenue, income that generates as a result of those connections. Anyway, thank you very much, Mike. And we now move on to Susana Córdoba, and she's an international trade development expert with many years of experience. She started her career back in Colombia, and she heads up the International Trade Department at Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. So this is another centre where there is enormous a number of Pakistani diaspora living in the Manchester area, the Manchester region. So as we say, we have Bradford, we have Glasgow, we have now Manchester. So, so Susana, I look forward to your comments about how your Chamber of Commerce can assist and facilitate business and enable business between various parties involved in trying to do business in Pakistan. I look forward to hearing you.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction, and also thank you to the Pakistan Business Consul for the kind invitation to join this esteemed panel of experts. For Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce, it's a great pleasure to be part of today's webinar, not just because all the important opportunities that have been highlighted by the previous speakers and experts, because we recently signed a partnership agreement with the Federation of Pakistan Chambers of Commerce, which outlines our commitment to continue growing trade and investment opportunities between the Greater Manchester region specifically and Pakistan. And not to mention that the fact that the Greater Manchester region has a huge diaspora of Pakistan families and businesses that are leading in terms of the trade in the Northwest with Pakistan. So I'm gonna just share my screen. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
PowerPoint? Just to make
Very
sure.
good.
Okay, so just to give you a bit of overview of the chamber for those who might not be aware of who we are actually the largest accredited chamber of commerce in the UK out of 53. We've been around for more than 200 years. And whilst we cover primarily the 10 local authorities within Greater Manchester, we also have members outside the UK, across the UK and from overseas. So we have circa 4,500 members across all sectors, being primarily the top 3 sectors: manufacturing, engineering, property and construction, and business and financial services. We offer a wide range of business support services, from policy and representation skills and international trade services. We work with both public and private sector organizations to help both UK and overseas companies to succeed in global markets. We have received a number of accolades, but I won't go into detail. These slides will be shared after the event, so you can have a look at our different websites and services. So today I just wanted to obviously try not to repeat myself from previous experts, but just wanted to provide a high-level overview of the current trade flows between the UK, specifically the Northwest and Greater Manchester regions with Pakistan. So at the obviously national level, back in 2020, despite the obvious impact of the pandemic, we reached a total of £2,200 million worth of trade with Pakistan, with UK exports reaching 737 million and total imports for 1,467 million. So we currently have a negative trade balance, but I think this also outlines the great opportunities that have been mentioned by previous experts. In terms of services, we can see that we have experienced some growth from the UK year on year up to 2018, and then there has been a bit of contraction as expected in 2020. In terms of imports, we also have seen year-on-year growth, with only in 2020 seeing a bit of a contraction, but we do expect that 2021 will see some recovery on this. As in terms of the top sector that is being exported is travel, but that's also our the main service that we import from Pakistan. As you can see, even though these are data from 2018, these remain pretty much relevant for 2020. In terms of goods, we can see again, there has been growth year on year, both for exports and imports. This has been more so up to 2019, but as expected, 2020 we saw a contraction, but we see growth going on. And then the top exporting sectors, just a bit of a comparison between 2018 and 2020. We see that the main exporting service is within the crude materials goods. And this also follows machinery and transport and chemicals. In 2020, we saw a bit of a contraction within our machinery and equipment sector and growth on the contribution of the crude materials. In terms of importing sectors, the top importing sector is within manufacturing and miscellaneous manufacturers, not surprising from Pakistan. And then how do we position ourselves within other European countries that are proactively exporting to Pakistan? We currently are in overall on rank 18th in terms of suppliers for Pakistan in terms of goods. And ahead of us, we have Netherlands and Germany. And Netherlands and Italy also experienced some growth between the 2016 and 2018 period, between 116 and 89% respectively. The UK grew about at 19%, and we represent about 2% of the total imports that Pakistan does. So I think this also showcases that we have similar strengths to other European partners, We have a lot more that we could be doing in terms of exports to Pakistan. This is a bit of an analysis with other UK regions in terms of our exports. So who are the main leading exporting regions from the UK? These include London, Southeast, and the Northwest, as you see there. But during the 2016 and 2020 period, we see that there was some decline in some of the regions, such as the Southeast and Wales. In terms of imports, this is an important point. The Northwest region is actually the leading importing region in the whole UK, with a vast significant gap with other regions such as London and East of England, which are the other two importing regions from the UK. We see that there has been some movement, but not as much as we saw on the exports during these periods. And now this is just a bit of a comparison between obviously the different periods of growth and decline. No surprising, between 2016 and 2020, we saw a decline, but up to 2019, most regions were experiencing important growth, with a few exceptions. The Northwest region actually grew by 11%. And only London seemed to have maintained year-on-year growth in all the different periods that we've been comparing this slide. Now, looking more specifically at the Greater Manchester region, in 2018, there were nearly 2,000 companies trading proactively with Pakistan, both in exports and imports. The Greater Manchester region actually accounted for 41% of the exporters and 58% of the total importers. So within the Northwest, without a doubt, Greater Manchester region is the largest trading partner for Pakistan. And I won't go into much detail about the UK export potential, because Mike just mentioned this earlier when he was speaking. But definitely a lot of significant opportunities across many sectors, but the most important ones within machinery, automotive, chemicals, pharmaceutical, and medical devices. And obviously there has been mention about the opportunities in education, in healthcare, in fintech. And in fintech, it's important to mention that Greater Manchester is one of the fastest growing outside London, with lots of new startups, innovation in this sector. We are also very strong on the healthcare and education, with 4 of the leading universities in the UK placed in the Greater Manchester region. Also important to highlight, Mike mentioned about e-commerce, how this has become more important during the pandemic, and there is a lot of level of expertise in Greater Manchester regarding augmented reality, retail, e-commerce, with some of the fastest growing online fashion retailers based. Their headquarters are based here in the region, and I'm mentioning something like Boohoo, Little Pretty Little Things, and AO, which is one of the for homeware kind of electronics, fastest growing retailers. So I think that's it for me, and I hope that this gave you a quick overview why Greater Manchester is so committed to growing and strengthening the links with Pakistan. But if anybody needs any sort of support, whether it's coming into the UK or going into Pakistan, we also work with the likes of DIT, PBBC, FPCI, and other organizations to help companies to reach new markets. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak today, and I'll hand it over to Julian.
Susana, I am extraordinarily impressed with your data collation there. That was a very impressive review of business arrangements between our two countries. I was very, very impressed with that data that you've managed to collate. It is particularly interesting to see that Manchester and the Northwest are the driving force of trade between the two countries. And undoubtedly, the significant influence there is the size of the diaspora in the Greater Manchester area. But thank you very much. That was extraordinarily elucidating and extremely interesting. And it will help us in focusing on where we need to focus. But one point that I do make is just a small increase across the board will generate huge benefits in terms of trade both ways. So very impressive, and thank you very much. I'm now going to pass the table to Dr. Irfa Iqbal. She is the Chief Executive of the Punjab Board of Investment and Trade. We have a wonderful relationship with PBBC. We have worked with them for a number of years, and we always enjoy engagement with Dr. Irfa's team. Dr. Irfa was her background, if I may very quickly elucidate, is she's a Harvard graduate and an Eisenhower Fellow, and she's been a civil servant for more than 20 years. Prior to her work with PBBC, she was a Commissioner of the Inland Revenue in Pakistan, and she's been heavily involved in the diplomatic community, having worked in Beijing and other jurisdictions. So I pass over to Dr. Irfa and look forward to your comments about how Pakistan, how the Punjab Board of Investment, PBBC, can assist potential investors who are looking to develop opportunities in Pakistan. Dr. Irfa.
Thank you very much. It surely is an honor to be part of this high-level forum, and it's a great opportunity for me to present the case of Punjab for investors. I would like to share a few slides if I can be allowed to do that. So yes, can I just share my screen if the host can allow me?
Rashid?
And while it is being done, I think we are all passing through a very important time. Pakistan qualified for GSP Plus scheme with EU in January 2014. And since then, our exports to European Union are considerably increased. But among those, UK had been at the top. And now post-Brexit, we need to figure out the new dynamics, and we need to work on the new scenario, that how we maintain the pace of our trading with UK, and what facilities can Pakistan get post-Brexit, because as I just mentioned, that under GSP Plus, our exports considerably increased, and the major partner had been UK. I will now share with you a few data facts and situational things about Punjab. It's just a snapshot of Punjab, population 110 million, urban population 40 million. Lion's share in Pakistan's economy is contributed by Punjab, which is around 55% of national GDP. And within Punjab, now the new emerging fact is that 62% of our provincial GDP is contributed by service sector, followed by industry and then agriculture. So there has been a transition. This is a comparison of 1951 with 2015, when there is a transition from agriculture to service industry. We have done all this mapping of population density in Punjab and how the new economic hubs are emerging, and how the primary cities, intermediate cities and towns will be seen few years down the line. This, I think, is an absolutely important slide. We have identified 17 economic hubs. So different regional hubs in Punjab, including Rawalpindi area, Chakwal, Sargodha, Miawali, Jhang, Faisalabad, DG Khan, Multan, Gujarat, Sialkot, Gujranwala, Lahore, Sahiwal, Bhavalpur and Rahim Yar Khan. And we have then identified the economic strengths of these regional hubs. On the basis of all these analysis and research, and also on the basis of the trade data, 12 priority sectors are identified, including textile value added, garments, leather, agriculture, livestock, metal and articles of metal, medical and surgical items, chemicals, plastics and rubber products, machinery and mechanical appliances, software, IT, transportation, warehousing, auto, trucks, and auto parts manufacturing. Important points, why to invest in Punjab. My apologies for this very cluttered slide, but these are a few rules, regulations that I wanted to share with you, that foreign equity investment is allowed up to 100%. No permission is required from government for undertaking a business here. Arbitration Act 2011 gives right to all investors to approach high courts for recognition and enforcement of arbitration proceedings. Arbitration agreements and Foreign Arbitral Awards Act 2011 is also in place. Protection of Economic Reforms Act 1992 is in place. No control on repatriation of profits to the country of principal. The facility of obtaining foreign private loans is available to all foreign investors. Foreign controlled manufacturing concerns are treated at par with other local companies for obtaining financial facilities for their working capital requirements. Then we have special economic zones. I will talk a little bit more about special economic zones in a bit. So CPEC is an important initiative in Pakistan. It is connecting Pakistan with the region. Now, narrowing it down, like narrowing down CPEC to Punjab, these are the completed projects of CPEC in Punjab. And these are the ongoing projects. Let me share with all the audience and participants of this forum a little bit about CPEC and its procedures, that every year there is a JCC meeting, new projects are included in CPEC, and the ongoing projects are evaluated. So right now, Punjab government is in the process of preparing the list of projects that we will be presenting in the working groups, which will be working towards preparing the agenda for JCC. This is the SEZ status in Punjab. We have 10 special economic zones in Punjab. These special economic zones are run under a special act, SEZ Act 2012, under which special incentives are given to SEZ enterprises, including duty-free, custom-free import of capital goods, plants and machinery, and 10-year exemption from income tax. A few strategic initiatives that we are taking, like Punjab Board of Investment is taking, being the front face of Punjab province for all the economic initiatives. Invest Punjab is the investor helpline and online portal. We are very shortly going to get this inaugurated by the Chief Minister of Punjab. This portal will be providing all the related information to the potential investors, will also be connecting them with potential partners for forming joint ventures. Then we are also establishing help desks in different cities of Pakistan. We have taken a start from Multan, where PBIT South Punjab Help Desk was established a few months back. Then there is an economic outreach initiatives, and multiple business facilitation activities are underway. Ease of doing business, as it was also mentioned by my previous colleagues, Pakistan jumped 28 positions on the index of EODP. And very recently, we have established commercial courts in Punjab under the initiative of Ease of Doing Business. These commercial courts will play a very important role in dispute resolution, and it will definitely make the business environment more conducive for both local and foreign investors. The second generation reform program of Ease of Doing Business is PRMI, Pakistan Regulatory Modernization Initiative. We are working on it. We are doing the mapping of all our rules and regulations, all the acts and ordinances which are connected with the businesses. We are preparing the regulatory catalog. And then after doing this mapping, which is almost done, we'll be actually we are simultaneously analyzing them as well. And after this analysis, we will decide which regulations are not required, which one needs to be modified. And then this activity will lead us to a regulatory bulletin. Punjab Investment Promotion Strategy. is based upon these highlights, the institutional direction, limitations, alignment with federal policy, potential markets identification, setting up the targets, action plan, and impact. And impact objectives for financial year 2021 and 22 are, as it is shown in the screen. We want to focus on the domestic market, mapping the priority sectors, reaching out to foreign missions, holding single country exhibitions and liaison with TDAP, liaison with MOC for FTAs, MOC's Ministry of Commerce, exchange of business and trade delegations. I hope COVID allows us. Engaging business groups for priority areas, sensitizing government departments for smooth processes. So this is in brief what we are doing. This is in brief what we are doing in Punjab, and PBIT is there to welcome all the potential investors, connecting them with their local potential partners, helping them out with all the processes within the government. So this in brief, the crux, Punjab is the place for investment, and PBIT is there to facilitate. Thank you.
Dr. Effa, thank you very much for your comments. I endorse everything you're doing, and it's clear that you're engaging and doing everything you can to build an appropriate engagement with investors into Punjab and Pakistan. I'm particularly keen and happy to see that you are looking to develop commercial courts that will be able to provide what I would call more rapid resolution, dispute resolution facilities. And this is a particularly important feature for potential investors looking into Pakistan. I'm also delighted to see the number of special economic zones that are being created. But most importantly, what I do enjoy is the interaction with your team when working and looking and assisting and trying to do business in Pakistan. So thank you very much for your work, and thank you very much for your presentation. And I certainly look forward to engaging with you and your team, working with you and trying to develop work going forward. So thank you very much, Dr. Effa.
Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the initial section. We have taken somewhat longer than anticipated, but what we now have is we have a process where we want to be, or a discussion where we have a panel discussion where we talk about business ventures that have been established, with a very short Q&A section afterwards. What we will do, given the shortness of time, is that Rashid and I and Nigel will engage with anybody that wants to discuss anything with us, and we will then sort of disseminate to appropriate parties wherever we can help going forward. But I'm going to hand over now to Nigel, who will moderate the panel discussion. And thank you, everybody. And I'm very keen to look forward to hear from our individual speakers in this section, because these are the guys at the sharp end. So I look forward to hearing comments and obviously taking matters forward. Thank you very much, everybody, thus far.
Thank you, Julian. So we're going to have a session now where I'm going to invite all our speakers from earlier today. Plus, we're going to be joined by 3 successful entrepreneurs working in Pakistan. So while you're thinking of your questions to any of this morning's speakers, I think it's important to hear from those that are doing some good business in Pakistan. And I'm just going to invite 3 people to briefly address us. Please, 2 or 3 minutes, your experience of working in Pakistan, the challenges, the opportunities that you'd like to tell people. First person I'm going to invite to talk to us is Saeeda Mandivala, who's the creative artistic director and chief executive of Tony and Guy, hairdressers and beauty therapists based in Karachi. So Saida, that's a fascinating sector for us. I'm sure you've got some good clients, the British High Commission and all the investment boards we've heard about, their families and relations. But please tell us about your experience of working in Pakistan.
So thank you very much. I'm really honored to be on this webinar. Just to sort of give you a very brief success story, you know, growing up as a young person in the United Kingdom in the 70s, where music, art and fashion were really inspiring to me. And of course, back in the day, there was no career guidance, you know, teachers to guide you. There was a book, and that is how it all began. So that was the beginning. Of course, I moved to Pakistan. I got married and moved here, didn't know the language and many other things. So I had to overcome many challenges. But I think with my strong cultural links with the UK, and then Pakistan becoming my home, I kind of had to make a bit of a mind shift. And through, I think, the connection between these foreign countries, I had to plan a strategy. And if I may say so, that I do come from a very unconventional business background. And my journey with business in Pakistan, with Tony and Guy and Essentials, salons, both in the service sector and in retail, I've actually kind of become a self-made, if you want, entrepreneur. The British Deputy High Commission had a big part to play in my journey in Pakistan. They always endorsed me, they encouraged me, they showed up to every event that we had, and they supported all the decisions I made, and also put me on certain panels that helped look at Pakistan in a slightly softer way. So, you know, I would mention some things here, and this was pre-COVID, and I think it's important to say that when you were talking about connecting and financial, pre-COVID, we held a mentor, a sort of an upskilling for vocational training and for human resources. So Tony and Guy was the first hair business here, and we really set a benchmark. So this was phenomenal because we connected with First Microfinance Bank, and we had about 100 attendees. And these young people were all under the age of, you know, 25, 30, and that's your biggest population here. So I think the retail landscape is really high volume here. And the middle class, don't forget, now want access to Western goods. And it's very important that we, you know, that it is available to Pakistan. The only disadvantage that I would say, and the only challenge that I still perhaps face, is that, you know, the grey economy here, where we obviously have to comply to 100% on everything, but we face a big challenge because we cannot compete with the prices in the market. And I think if those things are taken care of, I think anyone can do business here, especially in the service sector, the retail sector, the hospitality sector, that I can see, you know, where I'm sort of more connected with. And I really think, you know, if you're thinking about it, start, do it, you know, and make it happen, because that's what happened to me. So I just want to tell you that success breeds success, and I hope there are many more successful entrepreneurs here in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Saida. That's a great story, and I'm sure Mike is in Karachi at the British Deputy High Commission. Mike, you're sporting a very smart haircut. I'm sure you've been to Tony and Guy there, or your staff have at the very least.
we have Mike is very supportive, and we have a lot of people from the mission. So thank you.
Tony and Guy are not able to make any money out of me given my receding hairline, but I can vouch for the high quality of their services and their staff and their welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for that. I should have explained, we haven't got the chat function going, but if anybody wants to raise a digital hand, if you go to the bottom line and under reactions, you can see there's a facility to raise a hand. That is a virtual hand. So if you do want to ask a question, please use that. And I should also welcome a second member of the House of Lords to our guest today, and that's Lord Waverley, who I see has joined us. So as well as Baroness Mobarik, we a great welcome to my good friend Lord Waverley, who supports British trade and investment in so many countries around the world. So thank you, Lord Waverley, for joining us for this. I'm going to ask Tony McSweeney. I can see you there below me. You're an entrepreneur in the clothing sector, and I think you've got an interesting story to tell us, because I'm sure there's so much potential for the clothing sector. Would you like just to give us a couple of minutes about your experiences of investing in Pakistan?
Yes, well, it all happened about, I've been going to Pakistan about 10, 15 years, and then we had the opportunity about 3 years ago to invest in factories in Lahore, and with the help of the PBBC, they gave us a lot of help, and we had discussions with them. So I opened a factory, and we're providing clothes for now, for Europe, for America, for all over the UK and everything. We've got our own brand called Mondor, which is going to be launched shortly, which is the higher end section of the garments. And since we've been doing production, we've opened another factory next door. So we've got 2 factories now. And my aim is to build up the people, the workers and the community. And also my big aim is to open a school for the kids, for their workers and the community around there. So I've had a lot of opportunities in Pakistan, and I find the work, the people are very, very friendly, and that's why I've invested in Pakistan. I like the people, I like the country, and with the help of the PBBC, which have been a great, enormous help to me, I'm going forward. I'm looking for investment now because I want to expand the factories and then build the factories up and get more workforce. But my area is a very good area where the factories are, and we're doing good business. So it's a very good place to do business, and it's easy to do business, and we've got lots of help from the PBBC. So that's what we intend to do: bring up the workforce and open a school.
Thank you, Tony. That's a super story. And I see, right, we've now enabled the chat function as well, if anybody wants to use that. Thank you for that, Rashid. The final entrepreneur I've got on my list is Ali Hassan, who is working in the spice and food industry, exporting to the UK. Ali, are you with us? I've got 1 or 2 Alis on the screen. If you are, Ali Hassan, would you like to talk to us? I don't hear him, in which case I've got a raised hand, which is Mustafa Assi. To ask your question.
Yeah, Mustafa here from a global group of companies from Glasgow, Scotland. My question to the government and all the relevant bodies: there's a shortage of power in the country, and there's a hell of a lot of funding, loans, investments available for green projects, for biomass to solar panel, you name it, hydro or all sort of. So why the government don't put these projects, government and private bodies, to different organizations to start various projects at the same time rather than waiting one dam to be completed in 10, 20 years. There is a fundings available for these projects. Green projects are the top pick for the lenders just now.
So,
Lisa, would you answer or should I answer for on behalf of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa? Can
yes,
I?
Yes, Mr. Hassan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a very relevant question, keeping the fact in mind that we've just had the World Environment Day and we were the host of that. You know, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, since we have our northern areas, we also, since in northern areas, accessibility to energy sources is less, despite the fact that we have these micro hydel projects. What we are doing is that we are trying to bring household solar and also looking at possibilities of waste to energy projects. We have had discussion with Ukrainians lately. We have had some local investor comes in. So I think this impression is a bit false that the government is not looking at, because we know provision of on-grid solutions direct to the north would be difficult. So for the north, we're looking at off-grid solution where any investment in green, eco-friendly, solar, hybrid is music to our ears. So please contact us and we can have this discussion. We can also look at a possibility of manufacturing requisite material here. We have these, in few cases, we also have the raw material in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So we are most welcome to have this. I mean, yes, we are also looking at large size hydel project as part of the government's energy policy, because as part of the industrialization, we need hydel projects right from CPEC, where we have around 11,000 megawatt. But besides that, we are promoting other public-private partnership in this. So most welcome, sir.
Ajay, with your permission, can I add a few words to what Hassan Daud has just shared?
Yes, please do.
This is Sohail from Punjab, and I would be very brief and anecdotal in terms of my response to what Mustafa Saab has just put up. First, we need to rectify the impression that Pakistan is currently facing the shortage of energy. We have had huge energy surpluses in the system. However, transmission has remained an issue, and we are trying to look at that as well. As Hassan Saab has shared, that KPK as well as Punjab has been working on captive, they've been working on off-grid solutions. So absolutely all types of investments, specifically in the green area, when it comes to waste to energy, when it comes to hybrid wind plus solar solutions, we are absolutely ready to welcome with open arms. The one issue that I must highlight has remained with waste to energy, that we have been looking forward to have a complete composite solution where the recycling is also bundled with the waste to energy conversion, just to make sure that environmental damage is at the minimal. So you can contact us anytime, whenever you wish, if you have an interested party, a potential investor, and we look forward to meet you.
Thank you very much. I'm told Mr. Ali Hassan is now with us. Mr. Hassan, would you like to talk to us about your experience of exporting food and spices to the UK?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes,
hello.
Thank you.
Hi, ladies and gents, very good afternoon. His Excellency, PBBC and speaker from UK and Pakistan. I represent Mehran Foods Pakistan in the UK and Europe. We are obviously one of the leading exporter from Pakistan in food and beverage industry. And we're currently exporting to around 50 countries globally. And I think my participation is slightly the other way. While we're exporting from Pakistan, not from UK to Pakistan. So my role is basically here to embrace the power of collaboration and communication between Pakistan High Commission London, PBBC and us. I want to just share a little our journey with you guys, that obviously how we approach Pakistan Embassy in London, and we approach High Commissioner of Pakistan Embassy based in London, who is the predecessor to His Excellency. His name was Mr. Nafis Zakaria, who introduced us to PBBC and who enable us to explore new distribution hubs based in Lancashire, Crinton. So we managed to have a very structural discussion, keeping PBC as a stakeholder and this new buyer. And we managed to eventually take them on board and eventually increase the share of export we were exporting from Pakistan to the UK, and managed to create some British jobs, if you like it, in that value chain. So I think the power of collaboration and talking to each other really plays a vital part here. That obviously you open to the support available here, and organizations who are working as a bridge here, they're doing sterling jobs.
Thank you, Mr. Hassan. I think that makes the point that trade is a two-way process. Export and import benefit both countries. You're creating jobs in Lancashire. I can perhaps look forward to the next time I get some mango chutney or something of other. And as has been said earlier, the large Pakistani diaspora here, they want to buy spices and foods from, you know, the country that they came from. So I think that trade is a two-way process. So thanks very much for putting that into the mix. There are various people on chat asking for contact details of some of the speakers. So I'm sure, Rashid from PBBC, you'll be able to pick up the chat messages after we've gone off air, and you can let people have the various contact details. Mike Nithavrianakis from the British High Commission has left us now, but in one of the earlier chat messages, he gave you his email address. So for anybody wanting to export to Pakistan, that's a key address. And there's various people now putting email addresses on chat, so please do that. I think perhaps, Julian, we've got perhaps 5 minutes left, and then we should look to...
What I was going to do, if I may, Nigel, I know that Shafiq Shahzad, the head of commercial trade minister of Pakistan High Commission, is participating, and given his role in London, I think we should let him speak and to introduce himself just for a couple of minutes. So Shahzad, if I may take the liberty of introducing you to the meeting. Please, would you give us a very quick overview of your role and how you propose and how you would like to develop and build that relationship. So that would be very helpful if you could. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. To begin with, I'd like to thank PBBC, yourself, Nigel Peter, Mr. Rashid, for organizing this webinar, of course, jointly together, but commendable work done by yourself. Invited very good speakers. We have speakers from Punjab Board of Investment, from KP, and Mike also spoke in length about challenges and opportunities in Pakistan. I'll not speak much because much has been stated about the investment potential, opportunities, current level of trade. Just would like to share with you that despite COVID, Pakistan's trade is improving with UK, remittances on the rise, but the only area that we need to work on is investment. UK is still the second largest export partner of Pakistan, but in terms of absolute numbers, when we see, the figures are not very promising, despite that Pakistan is having now investment from many other countries. My friend Mike is there. We both are working together to formulate a strategy as to how we can promote investment. And of course, Julian, yourself and PBC We need your support, and you have been working very actively to, to bring investment to Pakistan. I am there to support all British enterprises, all British companies who are willing to, invest in Pakistan. If they need any kind of assistance, any support here in UK, in Pakistan High Commission office, or anywhere in Pakistan, all the relevant offices. We have Board of Investment at the federal level. We have provincial boards of investments. And I'm happy to share that their CEOs are very dynamic and active persons, people who are heading these organizations. If you need any kind of support, logistics, administrative, legal, we are there to assist and help you and guide you, to connect you with the right kind of people. And I'm here as well. I'll put down my email address. If anybody needs that, I'm available just a call away. And my I'll put my mobile number and my email address for everybody to contact me whenever they feel convenient. And with this, thank you so much. Once again, much appreciated your support for the promotion of bilateral trade between Pakistan, UK, and investment as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Shahid, that's extraordinarily helpful, and thank you for your engagement and involvement. What I'd like to do now is just to conclude, just very briefly. What is absolutely clear is that there are wonderful opportunities for businessmen in Pakistan and in the UK to engage and to develop and build business opportunities. The data is there, the economy is there, and thankfully the currency exchange rates have moved in the right direction so that people are more confident. So those opportunities are there and they must be taken up. And so the second or the key point that I make out of all of this is we need to follow up. We need to move and drive our businessmen to make sure that they engage. So we want to be able to hear many, many more success stories. One of the great things that is developing out of this, we've developed huge additional scope and capacity in connectivity, not only with the airlines beginning to travel to Pakistan again, but also with the internet and IT connectivity. And that is something that is very, very important. What we also have to do in a post-COVID world is to ensure that vaccinations are delivered to the Pakistan people. Now, in that regard, I was talking to the chief executive of AstraZeneca, and we've been working closely with him to encourage that Pakistan gets those vaccinations fast. If we can get people in Pakistan vaccinated and that element achieved, that is going to assist in the wider connectivity and the ability to do business and do work. I haven't been able to travel to Pakistan for over a year, and I missed that trip. And as I said, I have a lifetime obligation to go to the northern areas to do all of that. And I look forward to achieving that. Another thing is we have to engage with our financiers. UK export finance is hugely underutilized at the moment, and we need to develop those opportunities. And working with the British High Commission in Pakistan, that would be one way of moving that forward. So any businessman that fails or cannot find appropriate finance to deliver his opportunity in Pakistan, A, they need to have their business plan, B, they must approach UK Export Finance for assistance, because they are willing and ready to do and to provide support. Finally, I'm now coming to the stage of thanking everybody for participating in this discussion today. I think it's been very elucidating. and wonderful information has been provided from great speakers, and we need to follow up now. I'm going to thank everybody. I'm not going to name individuals. However, I'm going to name Nigel just very quickly for taking over when I failed and dropped out of the system. And thank you for picking up that banner very quickly. But really, and most importantly here, what is also very, very important, one man has put this together. He hasn't had a team. This is Rashid Iqbal. He has driven this and made it work, and well done to him. Thank you very much, Rashid. But also thank you all to our speakers. We have wonderful opportunities here. Let's really try and build this. And thank you to everybody again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All the best. Thank you very much. And keep healthy and keep safe.
Thank you.